Thank you everyone for joining us today for our industry update. Melissa and John will be going over the presentation and giving you an update of what's happening this week. As always, we ask that you mute your lines and use the chat feature only for asking questions. We will be addressing questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to John.
Hope, thank you very much, and welcome to all of you who have joined us today. We appreciate you tuning in for another week's webinar. I want to remind you that this webinar and the information contained in it today are designed for the use of our restaurant, hotel, travel, and tourism members and our other PRLA partners. We appreciate you being here. This is not on the record. This is an off-the-record call. So if you're with the press, please disconnect and reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to talk with you. We take all and any press inquiries, but not at this time on this call today. I also want to thank NEF, who is sponsoring today's webinar. NEF uses integrated marketing strategies to tell your story and expand your brand. PRLA partnered with NEF to bring branding and website solutions to HARP, our Hospitality Assistance Response of Pennsylvania. It's been a terrific effort to help displaced hospitality workers. Along with branding and website solutions, NEF delivers advertising, media buying, social media, public relations, photography, and videography services to their clients. Visit neffknows.com, that would be neffknows.com, and start a conversation and learn more about the great services they can provide to you and that they've been providing to us. With that, I'll turn it over to Melissa to kick us off.
Hi, everyone. We just, today's webinar should be really fast. Not a lot of updates, not a lot to share. So we should be out of here in about 20 minutes or so. Welcome back. I thought it was appropriate with the announcement this week that the throne from Game of Thrones was the appropriate Zoom background. So as I said before, I will either be taking over the Seven Kingdoms or the legislature. So we'll see how that all turns out. Hopefully I don't end up like most of the people in Game of Thrones, but we'll see. Anyway, let's jump into federal. I know we're going to spend most of our time on the announcement from yesterday, but there are other things happening that are worthy of me spending 30 to 45 seconds on. Federally, as you all know, there was a push to get another federal package through before the Republicans and Democrats broke for their presidential conventions. That, of course, fell apart when you have $1 trillion option from the Senate and $3 trillion option from the House. It's hard to meet in the middle. So we're kind of back to the politics that frustrated us all before COVID, where everybody throws up their hands and goes home. So generally what's happening right now is the Senate Republicans are starting to push forward an individual package of bill. Kind of each item has its own piece of legislation that the Senate Republicans are going to try and push forward via committee meetings, etc. I'm going to tell you briefly what's included in that package of bills, but to that end, please keep in mind that the Democrats have already made clear in the Senate that they will filibuster any movement of this package of bills, and the House has said this package of bills is a non-starter. But I think the hope is that this will restart the conversation to try and get a fourth COVID package across the finish line. So that is going to start happening over the next week. Discussion on these bills. It includes many of our priorities. Liability protection is included in that. One of our top state priorities as well. Payment protection program, that second draw on the P3 is included as part of this package of bills that is being moved. In addition, as we've said before, for our 501c6s, that is included as part of this package of bills as well, that the Senate Republicans are starting to move forward. It also includes $300 per week for unemployment compensation. It was $600 before, $300 supplement that would go to the end of the year, and then additional appropriations for contact tracing, COVID testing, etc. As I said, this is not a package or individual bills that will move in and of themselves, but the hope is that that will continue to drive conversation. And with the Senate and the House coming back to session right now, this is really a key time for them to try and coalesce once again around a COVID package. Elections are coming. You have moderate Republicans that are running tight races that need another win under their belts. You have Democrats that are in tight races that need another win under their belts. So it's going to be interesting to see if everybody can come together to put together a package. It gets more confusing as we go along. I still think that there is going to be another attempt to get this done, as discussions also are continuing in terms of getting a federal budget wrapped up, or at least kicking the can down the road, which Congress is so especially good at, before the end of this month. So conversations are going to continue. Our national associations, U.S. Travel, a National Restaurant Association, Asian American Hotel Owners Association, and the American Hotel and Lodging Association, this is what they're focused on right now. So like I said, the Senate is trying to kickstart some negotiations again, and the hope is that something will come out of it for the industry, especially for all of you that are suffering, our DMOs that could not access the P3, and also our restaurants that desperately need another drawdown of that P3 as well, and of course, liability protection. So we're really looking at this month to try and get something done. Congress will break and everybody will go home and try and justify that they need to be reelected, whether we think they should or they shouldn't. So this really is the time to get something done in Congress, and stay tuned to our updates. If there is an opportunity for something to move, we will put that in our daily update. If we need you to activate on it, we will also inform you of that as well. Let's go to state. So now we're going to get into the stuff that I'm already getting questions on. So if I answer your question over the course of my speaking, depending on the number of questions, we might not get to it again. So listen very carefully. Session. House came back into session last week. Senate came back this week. So the legislature is back in session, and they are moving bills quickly and efficiently for the legislature, which is still probably at half pace to what the rest of us would like to see. But they are back in session, and thanks to everything that you all have been doing in terms of participating in our roundtables and reaching out to your legislators, PRLA's priorities are on the move. And we're going to get into the governor's announcement yesterday, and I'm going to answer every nitty-gritty question on that, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the bills that are moving right now. The announcement that was made yesterday was made immediately 1 hour before House Bill 2513 was scheduled to move. House Bill 2513, to go over the parameters of that bill, restores the industry to where we were before July 15th, before that mitigation order took effect on July 15th. So in short, minimum 50% occupancy with social distancing and barriers in place. This applies to restaurants, hotels, bars, distilleries, wineries, breweries, and event venues. So this legislation increases event venue capacity to 50%. The 25 number goes poof, you would now be at 50% occupancy. It eliminates the bar ban, the bar service ban that's in place. It eliminates the food requirement. So it essentially brings us back to where we were before July 15th. Further, there was an amendment that was put in that would allow that extension of premise. So for those of you that maybe couldn't extend your licensed premise because you just didn't have the space directly connected to your premise, you could extend to somewhere within 250 feet of your licensed premise. So it gives you some more flexibility in terms of your outdoor space if you're able to use that going into the fall. If you can find a heat lamp, God bless you if you can. It gives you some more flexibility in terms of that. The announcement was made by the governor yesterday, and I don't know what the logic was behind it. Well, I do know. I think the hope was that by using the magical word 50%, all of a sudden everybody would fist pump and say, yay, we're going back to normal, which, to be honest, a lot of people did. If you saw the news when the announcement was made, it looked like it was great. And then when we looked into the details, which Sean will cover, we realized that this literally is not a step forward, and for some of you is almost a step or two backwards. Despite all of this, and thanks to all that you have done, this bill came out of committee unanimously yesterday. Every Republican and Democrat on the Senate Law and Justice Committee voted for a bill that restores our operations to before July 15th. That is huge. The fact that we had unanimous support out of committee. And we hope to continue to have that support moving forward. We don't know what the governor's office is going to do. We'll cover that as well. But we came out unanimous yesterday after that 50% announcement, which just shows that the legislature is listening to us. They're realizing that the announcement yesterday doesn't get us where we need to be, and they're continuing to support us as we are asking and saying what we need to get through this. So that was huge yesterday. The Senate will move that bill out of the Appropriations Committee today. It will get second consideration and move out of the Appropriations Committee. Timing wise, it's going to take a little bit. The Senate's not in session next week. Now, if they schedule session, we could get final passage in the Senate sooner. Right now, final passage would be slated for September 21st. Funny that an increase to 50% is happening on the same day that we would get final passage in the Senate. I'm sure that's purely coincidental. But generally, this is moving along, and we will talk about, because I know I'm going to get questions about timing and moving the needle on this, but House Bill 2513 is moving with broad, as of right now, unanimous, and hopefully continue to be broad bipartisan support. Also, bills that are moving, the House is coming back next week, and they are looking to move our grant program, our restaurant grant program that we have been speaking about in our roundtables as well. I have gotten, over the past week, from legislators, leadership, and everybody in between, just an absolute willingness and feeling the need to help the industry. And this is all because of your activation. This is all because of the roundtables. The House wants to move bills. So they are looking to move that House Bill 2615, that's that $250 million grant program for restaurants. I think that we will probably have some changes between now and next week to the bill. I have some meetings with appropriations staff over the next few days to talk through that, but there is a desire to move that grant program. Also today, I just received language for a zero interest loan, which is coupled with everything else to try and help you all get through it. So as we have on here, regional roundtables and legislative response. If you didn't think roundtables were working or helpful, I certainly hope that what you're seeing in terms of movement of our priorities changes your mind on that front, because we're moving, bills are moving, and we have the support that we need to move them. So we do have 2 roundtables that are scheduled for tomorrow. If we go to the next slide. So tomorrow we do have Northwestern and Susquehanna, which is kind of that area, I call it the Knoebels area, basically between the Northeast, a little west of the Northeast. But we'll put up the map for you to see that. Those are scheduled for tomorrow. Midwestern, we are looking to schedule right before the House returns to vote on House Bill 2513. So we're working on some timing issues on that, but we will be scheduling for number 11 on that map. If you're in that area, we will be scheduling a Midwestern meeting over the next couple of weeks. And I know we've crunched the numbers before. I can say with authority that we have had close to 150 legislators from start to finish participate in these roundtables. Bipartisan support, all of you that are participating, I think everybody who has participated can agree, they have been truly phenomenal in terms of response from the legislators, you guys telling your stories. So thank you to everybody who has participated in those and everybody who will be participating in those in the future. And with that, we're going to talk about the announcement that came from the governor's office yesterday. I'm going to let John go over that, and then I think I'll pick up a little bit more, and then we'll probably get to all of the questions.
Thanks, Melissa. I sort of give the backstory of this, and Melissa handles all the details. So I'm going to try to do that. As you all know, we worked with the governor's team in helping to formulate the green opening standards for restaurants, and felt like they were fair and yet safe and sensible and yet practical. And those were in place for a very short period of time until July 15th. And then we've continued to have dialogue with the governor's team since then, even though we told them that we had to disagree vehemently with the 25% restriction because it effectively closes restaurants and some of the other provisions that were in it, but mostly the 25% one. So we've continued to have dialogue while we've taken other approaches. And the most important of which Melissa's already covered is House Bill 2513 that was voted unanimously out of the Senate Law and Justice Committee yesterday while the governor was literally making his announcement. And then the other way we've done it is through the, if you will, the court of public opinion. We've had hundreds of interviews, billions of impressions of 25 is wrong. It has no, there's no science that says it's any safer. No one has any statistics that show it's safer, and it will only put restaurants out of business. So we've had a couple of calls from the governor's team saying they want to work with us. And this has been over the last few weeks, as Melissa pointed out, coincidentally, while our bill got a lot of traction, and particularly the bipartisan support of 2513, which, as she pointed out, would essentially return us to those more reasonable standards that we had before July 15th. We received a message on Monday evening, Labor Day, that they'd like to chat with us again on Tuesday morning, which of course was yesterday, which we did at 9 o'clock. We had Chairman Bill Kowaleski, Melissa, and me on the phone with the governor's team. And it was less of a discussion than it was a heads up that this was the order that was coming out. If you've followed any of the press on this yesterday, which we got considerable press throughout the day, television and print media and online across the state, or if you read our statement, we let them know we were not happy with this. In the words of the great American philosopher Tom Waits, the large print giveth and the small print taketh away. The small print was really bad on this one. So we described it as good news that was not really good news. We let them know the issues that we had with it during the call, which are several. And just to cover them briefly, they were not able to talk about bar seating. They didn't believe that there would be a change in the ability to seat at a bar, but they weren't sure about that. They said they'd talk with us. That's why Melissa says that's in flux. The food requirement remained unchanged. In other words, you have to order a meal in order to get a glass of beer, a glass of wine, or a drink. And they added 10 p.m. last call for alcohol. You can stay open, but you have to give last call for alcohol at 10 and have drinks off the table by 11. This was a new item that had never been included before. And then lastly, the certification, which in the governor's press release said was based on what is being done in Connecticut, but they neglected to say in Connecticut, all businesses are required to be certified to open at all. So if you're a big box store, a grocery store, a drugstore, any of those types, anything, you have to certify to open. And it doesn't just target the restaurant industry. We spent a lot of time on events, talking with them about events. We've got to get events on the same standard at least of 50% of capacity versus the unreasonable 25-person capacity that was put into place on July 15th, moving it from 250 to 25 overnight. They said, well, we're not really dealing with that. And they consider events, indoor events, to be the same as public gatherings, which we've been continually trying to explain the difference between private events and the ability to have a guest list, so on and so forth. And that was covered nicely in the green order. So to kind of sum up, in an interview that I did this morning on KDK in Pittsburgh, I was asked, what would you tell the governor? I said, I would tell them the same thing we told them yesterday, which is you and your team formulated reasonable, safe standards in the original green restaurant order. Go back to those. That's what we're trying to get done. And the probably best path to that now is House Bill 2513, where we have overwhelming bipartisan support. And as Melissa points out, coincidentally, at the same time that was moving, the governor's new order came out. So with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa, turn it back to Melissa to fill in the gaps and also to answer questions. And then if there's anything you need me to discuss or answer, Melissa, just let me know.
Thank you, John. And we'll go over, I will go through, and because I know I'm going to get this question. My phone is so popular today. We've gotten a lot of questions about the self-certification. I'll cover that a little bit now. As you can see, let me go through these just in a little bit more detail. So self-certification is not ready yet. It will not be ready until September 21st. You do not need to self-certify on September 21st to go to 50%. You do need to self-certify before October 5th, which is when enforcement will begin, which I'll speak to when we get to the questions. Self-certification, as far as we know, is going to be as basic as saying you're going to follow the rules as they're stipulated, not above and beyond the rules as they're stipulated, and providing your business name and your contact information. I say this a little tongue in cheek, and I love the state. That's not true, actually. But I mean, generally, I love the people that work for the state and I feel bad for them. But the state is pitching this, which I understand, as a consumer confidence measure, that consumers are going to go onto the state website, because consumers would do that all the time anyway, and know that you took this promise and you're operating safely. And then they're going to send you some tchotchkes in the mail, patting you on the back for filling out this certification. I don't believe that this certification is going to do what they think it will. I think it's just creating a database for them. I don't know how many consumers are going to use it, but that's the purpose, is they're saying they're doing this for you, for the consumers. That's how they're pitching it. 10 p.m. last call. Quite frankly, I have talked to a number of businesses, and this isn't entirely because I'm an NFL fan. For all of you that like baseball and basketball, that's great. I am a football fan. So for all of my sports bars and all of you right now, there are 10 o'clock games that you will no longer be able to have guests that want to have a beer while they watch the games, nor do you have bar seating. So for a lot of people, this 10 p.m. last call is actually a step backwards for them. So we're getting a lot of pushback from the legislature in terms of that 10 p.m. and the logic behind it. I will say this, and it's nothing that you wouldn't have heard if you watch any of the videos. Secretary Levine and the governor's office told PRLA, well, Secretary Levine said in her press conference yesterday, 10 p.m. is there because in their contact tracing, college students are saying they're going to the bar. This is mind-boggling to me because our bars have been shut down since July 15th. So I'm not sure what bars they're going to. If I were a college student, maybe I wouldn't want to say that I went to an off-campus house party and that's where I got COVID, but that's just me. So I think that there is, again, the lack of data, the lack of reality in terms of these enforcement mechanisms. When you say that college students are going to the bar, well, you have to be seated if you go to a restaurant and bar service isn't permitted. So whatever bars they're going to are bars that are breaking the rules and aren't going to sign this certification anyway. Food requirement continues to be, is unchanged, which for many of you doesn't make sense. I get upset when I go to a brewery and I just want to have a beer, and I'm sure they appreciate that I'm getting food too. That is still in there. Bar seating, as we said, is in flux. Events, unchanged, still 25. And then for local mitigation, which is going to be an issue, and I think Allison from out in Pittsburgh has like a flow chart or some type of chart that she's tried to put together. You're going to need a whole new one for this. This changes some of the rules that are currently in place in Philadelphia and Allegheny County. So the 10 p.m. last call for alcohol, as I always say, the stricter of the mitigation standard is what would apply. So in Allegheny County, and this is further, 10 p.m. is last call for alcohol. You can stay open as late as you want, but you cannot serve alcohol after 10 p.m. So for my friends in Allegheny County, you have a rule currently saying that everybody needs to be out, service needs to be completed by 11 p.m. That rule as of today, on the 9th, is still in place. But on September 21st, 10 p.m. is when you would have to stop serving alcohol. And then your 11 p.m. trigger would rule to empty out the restaurant. For my friends in Philadelphia, welcome to not a happy place. The 11 p.m. last seating, midnight closing rule, this would apply there. So your last call for alcohol would be 10 o'clock. You could serve food until midnight, but your last call for alcohol would be 10 p.m. under this order, which is why this is just a headache and infuriating all around. As John mentioned, we are continuing to try and talk to the governor's office. I feel a little bit better when members of his own party are expressing the frustration we are about the lack of communication and the lack of reasoning, the lack of data that's being used for all of this. It does make me feel a little bit better. But as John said, we're going to keep on moving 2513. And the hope with that, if I were the governor, and we'll talk about this, is maybe the rules will change before 2513 hits his desk, because I think right now we have bipartisan support in terms of moving that bill. So our focus right now is to continuing to draw attention to 50% occupancy is nothing more than creating more work and for restaurants that have been doing the right thing all along, it is not going to help people as much as they think. And we need to go back to where we were on July 15th, which is a proven measure for our businesses to operate safely. That's our focus. This is not in any way PRLA saying, yay, you go to 50%. I don't think this moves the needle. And that's why we're going to continue to push hard on this. I think we're going to the next slide, which I just dropped my paper on the floor. So, okay, so Allegheny County, as I said, there are no changes in Allegheny County as of right now. Keep in mind that the state changes are a September 21 implementation. So the 10 p.m. rule, none of that has taken effect yet, if I get that question. Allegheny County is still with its current rules, 100 people outdoors, 11 p.m. hard close. There is talk, it's going to be up to Allegheny County and Philadelphia if they want to align with the state guidance. If I were a betting person, I would say Allegheny could align. Philadelphia probably will not allow 50% no matter what, beginning on September 21st. I don't think I'm saying anything that anyone would be surprised of on that front. So everything continues as is until September 21st, which is why I'm going to answer a few of these questions about emergency orders and all of that. Philadelphia. I know I say it every week, but like every week I feel like I'm taking, I feel like I'm taking a step forward in Philadelphia and 3 steps back. We had a webinar last week with the Philadelphia Department of Health regarding reopening for indoor dining in Philadelphia. We did get some questions answered on that webinar. From that webinar, for those of you who were on it, you will know that I said this. I said I will create an FAQ document to send to the Department of Health, have them review and confirm that everything I put as what the answers are in the FAQ document are correct. I have not gotten a response from the Department of Health, even though I sent them that FAQ on Thursday morning. So I'm continuing to ask for a response so we can really clarify some of those guidelines that we received on the webinar last week. And hopefully we will receive that soon. Philadelphia, it can be a little frustrating sometimes, but you all know that. So that's nothing new. But Philadelphia did begin to allow for indoor dining yesterday at 25%. They did have some more strict requirements for indoor dining. You needed a mask and a shield. You needed more barriers than you might have normally. Some more stringent rules in Philadelphia for that. And with that, Ben Felicia, who is our boots on the ground in Philadelphia, Ben, can you provide a little bit of information of what you've seen walking the streets in Philadelphia in terms of indoor dining as of yesterday?
Sure. Thank you so much, Melissa, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, so I toured a lot of the different neighborhoods in Philly, and there some of the larger restaurants had opened up to 25%, and everything I saw, you know, again, it's just our restaurants are really stepping up to the plate. You know, everything is clean. All the servers were wearing their proper gear. You know, so much use of contactless payment and menus. I mean, it was just really impressive. But the 25%, you know, because a lot of the Philadelphia restaurants have such a small footprint, many had decided not to open for indoor dining at 25%. It just didn't make sense for them. They can't make money. There's a bar on a 3-story bar on 15th Street that I went by. You know, they have so much bar seating that their table seating would only allow them 4.5 guests per floor. So they were like, it just doesn't make sense. So people are continuing with their outdoor dining. We've been blessed the past couple of weeks with some nice weather. Hopefully that continues. But the 25% really doesn't move the needle much for a lot of our restaurant friends in Philadelphia. And the ones that did allow, again, they're doing a great job. And me, along with the team of the PRLA, is here to assist with any guidance or anything that people would need. Thanks.
Okay, with that, I think we're going to go through the last few slides, and then I will answer 130,000 questions.
John, do you want me to take this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Hope.
All right, great. So tomorrow we will be hosting a webinar with the former BLCE agent officer. He will be covering what the LCE is looking for that you might not be thinking about, common violations, common violations for chains and clubs, and the current COVID restrictions. Also be a question and answer area, at the end. So please join us tomorrow at 10:30 for our webinar with Chad Vail. And then next week, we are going to have the National Restaurant Association and the HNLA joining us to discuss our PA promise for the hotels and restaurants, and also talking about Serve Safe Dining Commitment and how to get involved with that, and the Safe Stay program, how to get involved with that. We think that these are all great programs to help with building customer confidence on a national level. This National Restaurant Association has been launching a national campaign to get diners back into the restaurants, and the dining commitment is a part of that commercial that will be running on a national basis. We do have some other webinars coming up on our website with different organizations, One Degree Coaching and Post and Shell. So please be sure to check those out and link to those websites. As always, our webinars are recorded and posted on our website afterwards, so you can archive them. Just one other part with the dining commitment to be thinking about too is they are going to have a customer interface website that they're going to be promoting to consumers to go out to see who is participating with these programs. So it's another piece of advertising for you to think of. Again, we are looking for virtual experiences for our students who are back in the classroom, either remotely or in person. So if you have the time and you would like to commit some minutes to helping with some demos, maybe 15-20 minutes would do a great service to these classes and for the educators. And we are still having our Serve Safe classes. Our website has all of our classes. You can register straight off of the calendar. And with that, I think we're on to questions. There we go. I hope that was enough time, Melissa.
Okay. It's funny, everyone thinks I look at the questions ahead of time. I don't. I like to be surprised so I can provide my immediate commentary on questions. So let's get started. Bob always has the first question. My question is about Wolf's Tuesday announcement. I can't find the legal executive order. Remember, the press release isn't equal. Yes, I'm aware that the press release isn't equal to a legal executive order when it comes to enforcement. Do you have a copy of the executive order? Second question, if House Bill 2513 passes, there's no need for the legal jeopardy of signing up for Wolf's orders. So the enforcement mechanism for this order doesn't take effect until October 5th. So quite frankly, the administration has until October 5th to release that order. And as we were talking with before, from what I have been told from sources, is that the administration was discussing this amendment on Monday, Sunday and Monday of this week. So a lot of the details were never figured out. And part of the frustration I think that we had with the announcement yesterday was it threw 50% around like it was, a miracle, but didn't mention the fact that you still have to get a meal, bar seating is in flux. So I don't expect an official order until the actual details have been hammered out. And they do have some time to do that. So this is more of an FYI. I would not presume that there will not be an order from the governor and the Secretary of Health. Keep in mind that they both do duplicative orders in an effort to get ahead of any legislation or anything the legislature does to end an emergency declaration by the governor. So the order is not out yet, but that's because they don't have to, because it doesn't actually take effect or be enforced until October 5th. So they have some time. Of course, when the order is out, we will share it with everybody. And we are hoping to have a call with the administration this week to, if all else fails, have the ability to change some of the rules that they put in the order yesterday to make it a little bit more or less egregious to all of you on the call. And then, yes, if 2513 passes, legislation that passes that the governor doesn't veto, or if he signs or he decides not to sign it, the signing up for all of that information would really be a moot point because you would be back to 50% anyway. Do bars have to go to 50%, or do they have the option of staying at 25% and keeping regular hours? This is probably the question John and I have gotten more than any other, and that's because the announcement was confusing. But generally, and I'll read it for you because I don't ever like to say something and then somebody says, I don't think that's right, which rarely happens. Universally in this order, alcohol service has to end at 10 p.m., whether you are at 25% or 50%, whether you're at 10%. And in the governor's announcement, it does talk about a restaurant that wants to go to 50% on September 21st, completes the self-certification. Business owners should keep a copy of it. And then, I'll read it slowly so I don't speak too fast even for myself. Further, starting September 21st, restaurants that have alcohol sales will close alcohol sales at 10 p.m. Note, it doesn't say restaurants that are at 50% capacity. It just says restaurants that have alcohol sales. So that 10 p.m. is applied universally. So whether you go to 50% or you don't, that 10 p.m. last call would apply universally to anybody that is licensed to serve alcohol or that is serving alcohol. Looking to clarify the 10 p.m. end time for alcohol for both our banquets and restaurant staff. Is it a hard stop that no alcohol can be served whatsoever after 10 p.m., or that anyone that is already seated and dining to 10 p.m. can continue to do so until their meal is concluded? For my friends that are, open till 2 a.m., they're familiar with last call. So essentially at 10 p.m., that's when you go around to everybody that's seated and say, do you want another drink? Alcohol service is concluding. So if they're seated and 10 p.m. comes, they can order a drink at 10 p.m., but if they're still eating their meal at 10:30, they cannot order a drink at 10:30. Last call is you asking them if they want one more drink before service is concluded. So that's what the 10 p.m. rule means. And again, I'll say this to reiterate, 10 p.m. is not that you have to close at 10 p.m. It's last service of alcohol. So you can stay open and serve just food. That's fine. You can continue to do takeout. I know I'm getting that question later. That's fine. It's the on-premise consumption of alcohol. They're saying last call has to occur at 10 p.m. And then I think I answered your question, Bob. And like I said, this was a press release they put out yesterday to try and get ahead of a bill that was going to reverse the mitigation announcement. It was not done in a way of like when they did the 3:30 announcement with enforcement at midnight. That came with an executive order. That came with that order. This is something that they have almost 2 weeks or more, with October 5th being the date, for enforcement for them to figure out. So that's why you're not seeing all of the details, because they have time to figure out those details. So a lot of this stuff we're in a bit of flux. Thank you, Susan. I like this background. I might keep this as long as there's no red weddings. Any thoughts on when indoor catering restrictions will be lifted or expanded? Tom, 2513 right now feels like our best chance to change that number. I mean, there were, in our call with the governor's office yesterday, like with bar seating, there were items where it felt like they were just like, yeah, we'll talk about that. When we asked about indoor events, they were like, no, 25 is the number. And that, since 25 is universally applied even beyond our industry, they were sticking with it. So I will say that in terms of our roundtables and in terms of all of your interaction with elected officials, the pressure is on legislators to support 2513 to get us there, and they're talking to the governor about that. But right now, I think our best bet is going to be with 2513 before the governor's office. Do bars have to go to 50%, or do they have the option of staying at 25% and keeping regular hours? No, I think I answered that, but I will take it a step further. 10 p.m. is universal. For Philadelphia, Allegheny, all 67 counties, 10 p.m. is going to be the last call for alcohol under this current announcement, since we don't have the order yet. I don't want to speak out of turn. But you are not required to sign it. So essentially, September 21st, you can go to 50%. You need to sign this commitment by October 5th, which is when enforcement would begin. But you don't have to do that. You can stay at 25%. And let's say you want to stay at 25% until November 1st, and then you want to go up to 50, you can do it then. This isn't everybody has to sign up within this time period. The 21st is just the earliest that you can do it. And if you are going to do it, you need to sign that commitment by October 5th. Yes, there is no official executive order. And to be honest, I say this, I feel bad sometimes for the LCB because you know they're going to have to update their advisory opinion. So we are going to get more questions answered in terms of all of this, in terms of enforcement. So a lot of details are still coming. I'm telling you everything I know. I'm telling you what I think I know, which is what I always try to do. But a lot of these questions we have right now are just ones that they didn't deign to answer yesterday. 2 questions. Where can I find detail about the fact that the governor did not increase the 25-person cap on private events? So this is welcome to my life. It's not that they're saying they're not lifting the cap. It's the fact that in their announcement, they didn't say they were changing the cap. And that's what keeps it at 25. So they said indoor dining for restaurants can go to 50%. Restaurant occupancy can go to 50%. They stated that in it. Everything they didn't state, status quo currently exists. If you do look up the press conference from Secretary Levine yesterday, she did specifically state that events are still at 25 people, so you can hear that from her. But really with these announcements, what they don't say means that that is unchanged in terms of that announcement. Self-certification only increases the maximum indoor capacity of restaurants to 50% of total indoor occupancy. All other restrictions, yes, remain in effect. And that's really where we are. And that's why there is no order yet, because we still have an opportunity, I think, to change some of these things and work through some of these things with the administration, especially as they're seeing that the legislature isn't entirely thrilled that the announcement yesterday solves the problem. So until we have the official order, there might be some changes over the next 2 weeks. Okay, let's see. If a restaurant may in the future wish to increase capacity to 50%. No, I think I answered that question. Self-certifications are on a rolling basis. I did answer that question. House Bill 2513 passed in committee and will move to the Senate floor. Is that our only hope for venues to be increased back to 50%? As of right now, Stacy, that's what I'm feeling. The governor could change that, though. I mean, we have said you're keeping a running list of attendees at your events. There are ways that you're operating safer than any other event that would want to operate at 50%. So we are not, just because we have made it clear that we think that the governor's order is not good, which it isn't, doesn't mean that we aren't going to continue to talk to them, continue to try and get them to realize that some of these parameters need to be changed. And hopefully the movement of 2513 with that bipartisan support will show the administration that there needs to be a change in the order from yesterday. So private function space, if you are, it's same rules, it's unchanged. If you are serving the public, you could go to 50% on September 21st. If you are having private events, weddings, funerals, birthday parties, if it's a specific event, you are still capped at the 25 people indoors. Will restaurant grants in 2615 also extend to catering businesses and event venues? We are not sure yet, Melissa, quite frankly. The language right now is very specific to restaurants. We don't know how much money is going to be in the fund. These are all conversations we're going to be having over the next few days. There is tax codes in there right now as delineating who is eligible, so I'd encourage you to look at those, but that might change as we work through the bill. Part of the fun part of my job is that we usually work on amendments late into the night before and the day of. So all of this is going to be conversations that we're having with appropriation. So right now it really is specific to restaurants, but conversations are occurring. And again, anything can change between now and next week. Do Philadelphia restaurants need to get certified now, even though they are not able to increase to 50%? I think I answered that. No, you don't have to certify at all if you don't want to. And if someday between now and the end of time, Commissioner Farley decides to get you guys up to 50%, you can fill out that certification at that time. Hopefully sooner than later, but Philly, I got no words. What is the self-certification? Seemed like you were grading your own test. Who thinks of this stuff? I feel like you guys put these things in there just for my self-commentary, but it's silly. it doesn't make any sense. As John said, they're following Connecticut, but Connecticut says everybody has to do a good job, which makes a lot of sense. This just feels like restaurants, you need to do a better job, except we've been doing it right all along. And as I've said before, I know nobody on this call, if you are an operator that's doing it wrong, this isn't going to change anything. So I'm not quite sure what box this is checking other than creating a website. Hopefully they have an app for consumers to see that restaurants are self-certified. But really, they're just asking you to once again take another step to say that you're doing what you've been doing all along. So yes, it does seem silly. And I wasn't the one who thought of it, Tracy, I can tell you that much. Who would have thought going to 50% would cost revenue? Yeah, who would have thought? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, but that was their logic. I think Ben did post the language for the two bills I discussed about today. Philly has put out 2 closing times for inside and outside seating. Which applies / why is there a difference? We're still, Ben, did you have an answer to that?
Sure. So as of yesterday, Philadelphia went, so prior, the new permit extensions, if you had a new permit, you had to close by 10 o'clock. Previous permits could let you go to your whatever time that was set at. Could be midnight, could be 2. So yesterday they tried to consolidate everything and said, whether you're indoor, you're outdoor, whether you have a new permit, whether you have an old permit, last seating would be at 11 o'clock. All guests has to be out by midnight, lights out, everybody out of the restaurant by 12:30, which was, it is what it is, but at least everybody was on the same page. However, with the governor's new order starting on September 21st, that's going to change as far as, alcohol sales at 10. So there, we have to follow, in Philadelphia here, we have to follow whatever the stricter guidance is. So that's why it's so confusing. And, as we get the FAQ back from the health department, we should be able to share accurate information with all of you. But yes, it's very confusing and it stinks.
Yes. For outdoor events, not in a restaurant, can alcohol continue until 11 p.m. in Allegheny County? This is confusing to us. Jeannie, this entire order is confusing to everybody, so don't feel bad about that. Alcohol sales, alcohol service universally, indoor, outdoor, on a roof, 10 p.m. is going to be last call for that. So yes, if you are doing an outdoor event and typically your last call was 10:30, because technically you have to have everybody cleared out by 11 in Allegheny County, 10 p.m. would be last call for alcohol for on-premise consumption, which leads me to the next question from Leo. Does the 10 p.m. last call for alcohol apply to cocktails to go, or does that still end at 11? Cocktails to go still ends at 11. This 10 p.m. is purely for on-premise consumption, because at 10 p.m. apparently you're not able to make decisions on your own, so the government is doing it for you. But cocktails to go can go to 11. Takeout can go past 10 p.m. On-premise food service can go past 10 p.m. It's purely on-premise alcohol consumption at an event, at a restaurant, that last call has to occur at 10 p.m. I think I answered that question for you there, Brad. That was the next one. Donnie Smith says, thank you as always for your help in Philly. I have to give Donnie a shout out here because he took phenomenal notes on our call with the Philadelphia Health Department last week, and they made my life so much easier when I put together the FAQ document. So thank you for your help, Donnie, on that front. Are you able to share that FAQ unofficially for us that didn't attend last week's webinar? And I'm thinking about it because, I mean, I'm hitting a dead end in terms of trying to get a response from the health department. We did have some unanswered questions from that webinar that I need the health department to answer. I'm not opposed to it, but let me see if I can try and get at least a response from them today. If not, we can at least share what we know, because it is 3 pages of pretty much a lot of the questions I think people are still asking. 10 p.m. Yes, private events. That's what's funny, isn't it? It's not funny. Nothing's funny anymore. I mean, they won't increase indoor capacity for private events, for weddings, but they're saying that in addition to you being stuck at 25 people, your last call is 10 p.m. Yes, alcohol service for 10 p.m. is universally applied. We do have a link on here that Philadelphia is doing a 12-month payment plan for delinquent liquor tax if the taxpayer was current as of March 1st. I think there's a link to that included here. There is several, and this isn't just a Philadelphia thing, this is an FYI, several in Philly are still having problems finding staff. That's a universal problem across the industry right now that we're still trying to work through, quite frankly. There was some chatter on the federal level to try and incentivize people to return to work. This is, I mean, one of the, I don't even know why I say ironic. I mean, before COVID happened, the biggest issue we had in our industry was getting staff. Now we're mitigated, we can't operate fully, and the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues in our industry is not having staff. But yes, that continues to be a problem, which is why some of these training items, some of these webinars we're doing, PRLA's partnership with a lot of these training programs is really going to be key in kind of driving people and helping the industry recover from this. Let's see. I signed up, this might be for you, Hope. I signed up for the PRLA Safe per Restaurant thing, but never heard more about how to get listed. Other restaurants have their logos on the webpage. How can I do that too? Hope, do you know that one?
There should be an email on that website of who to reach out to, but Wendy, I could follow up with you after this. It's all handled through the National Restaurant Association. I think it's Renee, but I'll follow up with you after the webinar on that.
Is the 10 p.m. alcohol rule effective immediately or 9/21? Effective 9/21. So you have 12 more days. What about 10 p.m. end time for hotel grab-and-go market for consumption in hotel guest rooms? That is considered to go, so therefore the 10 p.m. rule does not apply there. But if they're taking it or ordering it from a server and sitting in your restaurant after 10 p.m., that would be an issue, but takeout to go is allowed. Yes, you can buy alcohol to go after 10 p.m. Does the bar have to end at 10 p.m. for banquets also? They're saying alcohol service universally. So yes, the 10 p.m. is universally, and 10 p.m. does begin on the 21st. And again, they have some time to change all of this. So we're continuing to have conversations. Timing for 2513. If they do not schedule more session days, we're looking at the end of the month. Just in terms of the legislative process moving. If we get an extra day somewhere in there, we could get it to the governor's desk sooner, but right now we are looking at it hitting his desk on the 28th or the 29th under the current legislative process, which I know is not where we want it to be, but for the legislature, that's actually pretty quick for them. And then with that, when it hits his desk, if he doesn't, and like I said, our goal here is to continue to have him change the rules so we don't have to send him a bill. So the hope is that we get some movement on some of these items before that time. What is the penalty if we go to 50% and don't self-certify? I asked that question yesterday with the governor's office. You will be mitigated and you will never be able to go to 50%. So if you just go to 50% and self-certify, there will be enforcement on you like there is now, but you also will not be permitted to go to 50% in the future. So I don't know how long that's going to last for, but technically that database is also for enforcement to use as well. So if they go into your restaurant and you are at 50%, you didn't self-certify, the penalties that are in place right now would still apply. Okay, for those of you that are sending me emails with questions, can you put them in the chat box, because I can't read emails and chat questions all at the same time, and I just got 4 of them. I answered if it impacts sale of to-go cocktails. Can private events indoors with 25 people now serve food and beverage in Philadelphia? Yes, that is our understanding. That's in my FAQ document, but yes, private events for 25 people, including staff, don't forget that, can serve food and beverage in Philadelphia as of yesterday. And we do have Philadelphia is closed at midnight, not 12:30. This is not necessarily Ben's fault, because we have actually, I Justine, I was at the midnight thing too. And then last week, the Philadelphia Health Department kept on saying 12:30. That's why I did an FAQ. So we aren't sure because as far as we know, they still haven't updated the guidance to actually include the closing time. We're still waiting on that. But yeah, Justine, we're going to get clarification. My understanding initially in the order was 11 p.m. last seating, 12 p.m. close, but the health department did say last week 12:30, which is why everything in Philadelphia continues to be a pain in the neck.
Melissa, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
I just put it in from the announcement in the chat. That 12:30, whoever said that misspoke. So here's the clarification from the announcement yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Justine. Thank you. So yeah, so that was a misunderstanding, I think, on our webinar last week. So thank you, Justine, for clarifying that. So midnight's your last, you have to be cleared out by midnight in Philadelphia. Thank you, Melissa Bova of House, Pennsylvania, first of her name, Queen of the Government Affairs, Protector of Restaurants and Lodging, Mother of Data, Breaker of News. Nicholas, I'm going to use this. That is magnificent. Thank you. And then thank you to Ben, Eric, Hope, and John too. That is amazing. I'm so glad we saved these chats. Thank you, Michael, for the thank you. Is 10 p.m. last call for weddings since they are not paying guests? Yes, 10 p.m. is an alcohol service trigger, not paying or otherwise. So even for a wedding, they are consuming alcohol on whether you are licensed or on the licensed premises. Now, if it's somebody in their backyard and it's not a licensed premises, the 10 p.m. wouldn't apply because you're not selling alcohol. But if in any way, if it's a wedding that it's all inclusive, anything like that, 10 p.m. would trigger. Backyard is not necessarily covered by this. It's the licensed establishment. Long may they reign. I got to keep on upping my Zoom background game. Well, this new self-certification opens up extra liability for the property owners as you're self-certifying, and if someone does catch COVID, will your property be open for additional legal issues? Good question, Linda, and the answer is no, because quite frankly, there's no protections in place right now on liability. So this doesn't change, unfortunately, the risk right now in terms of somebody saying that they caught COVID from dining at your restaurant, which is why liability protection at the state and federal level is so important right now. So it doesn't really change anything because there's no protections in place as it is. And even with the self-certification, which we'll look at, if it's aligned with the standards that are in place by the CDC and the Department of Health, the liability protection basically says that you do need to do all of those things to have liability protection. So it wouldn't change that. Let's see. Between now and the 21st, what is the time for last call? Steve, where do you live? Where is your restaurant? Allegheny County is last call anytime before 11 p.m., but everybody needs to be out by 11 p.m. So hard on-premise food and beverage consumption has to end at 11 p.m. If you are in Philadelphia right now, last call is essentially your business has to be emptied by midnight. Thank you, Justine. You can have seating at 11 p.m. So you can still serve drinks up until those tables that were seated by 11 p.m. leave. For the rest of the state, last call, there is no requirement to close before 2 a.m. So your last call would be 2 a.m. in terms of if you're open that late or not. So think I got it all right there. I need to start doing a flow chart of some sort for all of this. But that's where we are right now until September 21st, which is why 10 p.m. is kind of shenanigans in terms of 10 p.m. being last call, especially for football season. Oh, John, this one's for you. I'm going to turn this one over to you. The restaurants in my district are confused and frustrated by all the restrictions and requirements. Is there any science behind these number guidelines? Example, 25% capacity, face shields, etc., or is this just out of caution? John, take it away.
Well, we have been asking for data or science for this all along, and particularly since July 15th, And not only have we, but I talked with at least two network reporters yesterday who have been asking for it for the same amount of time, submitted, one of them from CBS 21 in Harrisburg, submitted an open records request and finally got an answer, which was no answer, he said. So we believe the reason why no one can see the data is because it doesn't exist. And if you think about it, how could there be data that would show that 25% is safer than 50% if your social distancing and face masking and everything else is the same? There's no, it's a common sense sort of answer. So sorry about that.
Okay. If we stay open for food only late, is there a time alcohol purchase before 10 p.m. needs to be off the tables? As of yesterday, it's 11 p.m. is what the governor's office told us. With that being said, there was some talk that they said they might let last call be 10:30, which I feel like isn't all that much of moving the needle. But it would be 10 p.m. last call, 11 p.m. alcohol needs to be off the tables. Food service can continue. But again, this is probably going to be in an FAQ from the LCB because the LCE is going to be enforcing. And thank you again, Justine, put that in there for the midnight hard stop for Philadelphia. Okay. Can we clarify the Philly face shield requirement? Who needs it? General managers, admin staff, servers just serving outside seating but need to come inside. Are we looking ahead to winter yet, or is that too traumatizing to broach? So, and this is going to be in the FAQ. We did get some good clarifications on this on the call last week. The face shield and the mask requirement are for indoor service for those that are interacting with the customer. So if you have servers that are serving outdoor tables and indoor tables, they need the shield and the mask for indoor service. Now, when they go to outdoor service, they could remove the shield, which seems like an extra step. It's those that are interacting with the customer. So for example, your cooks, your sous chefs, your dishwashers don't interact with the customer. They do not need both. They can do a mask or a shield. Even beyond that, since bar seating is not permitted, if you have a bartender that is at the bar mixing drinks, but they are not interacting with the customer because the customer can't go to the bar, they would not need the face shield and the face mask. So it is those interacting with the customers for indoor service in Philadelphia. That's where you trigger the need for both. Winter, I mean, winter's really what we're trying to push with 2513, and we're certainly hoping that all of you doing an awesome job in Philadelphia at 25% capacity is going to help increase indoor capacity in Philadelphia so that the winter will not be too traumatizing as we get closer to it, because I do know that heat lamps are impossible to find right now. Who will be the enforcement arm for this order in Allegheny, the field task force that has been doing proactive inspections? Yes, so any of the enforcement that's in place right now will continue to be done. So if the Allegheny County continues with the task force, I would presume that these extra mitigation efforts from the state are going to be added to that checklist. It's going to be LCE as always. It's going to be departments of health if you have a local health department like in Philadelphia, Allegheny County, Erie, anybody that Chester County, Montgomery County, I think Delaware is covered by Chester. The enforcement is going to be unchanged. It's just these additional items are going to be added to those enforcement measures. Can there be some more specific guidance on indoor spacing? Is it table to chair, back of chair to back of chair? My restaurants say will help standardize things. It's back of chair to back of chair is your 6-foot distancing. So that's how that needs to be done, or barriers need to be put into place. And I'd encourage you, I know on the Department of Health, there's a video that we shared in our update last week that talks about some of the spacing items and how you can get creative with barriers. And I know on the Department of Health and Food Safety, there are some items on there that really talk about the social distancing. It gives you examples of what is permissible and what isn't permissible. So I would definitely check that out, especially for Philadelphia. If a business self-certifies, will be they given opportunity for mitigation? Allison, I don't know if I understand that question. if you're saying that if you self-certify, are they going to come inspect you more? I don't think so. To be honest, I would think if you self-certify, it's going to be those that don't, that they're going to check and make sure aren't operating at 50%, but I'm not sure if I actually answered your question. So if I didn't, if you could re-clarify, that would be helpful. 25% capacity includes, I think this is another Philly question, which we also were able to get clarified. Does the 25% capacity restriction, and this is universal, actually, we were able to clarify this across the state, so breaking news maybe. 25% capacity restriction includes staff, or does that just apply to table seating capacity? 25% in Allegheny County, Philadelphia, and 65 other counties is inclusive of, again, staff that's interacting with the customers. So you do not need to include your back of the house staff as long as they're not interacting with customers as part of that 25% capacity restriction. But you do need to include your staff that are interfacing with your customers. Okay, I think Kamara answered that question. If there are no barriers in the kitchen, let's say you have an open kitchen, you need to have 6 feet of distance between where your kitchen and your cooks are standing and the closest customer. If you have the 6 feet of distancing, they don't need to wear both. Now, let's say you have a kitchen where the tables are right up against where the chefs are cooking. In that case, your cooks and chefs are interacting with the customers, they need to wear both. But if it's an open kitchen and there's 6 feet of distancing, they do not need both. It's only if they're within 6 feet of the customers. Yes, it is frustrating if you're following the rules before 10 p.m. Why can't we follow them after 10 p.m.? Yes, I mean, correct. I mean, that's kind of the frustration here is everybody who's going to have to follow these new rules were following the rules all along, and everybody who wasn't is going to continue to not following the rules, and it makes no sense whatsoever. I agree. I'm not sure how you guys keep all of this straight and aren't completely crazy by now. Sue, I'm feeling like I'm going a little crazy right now, but we're trying, and thank you for the thank you. Let's see. I'm also the mother of data. That's sad, isn't it? From what I hear, Philly's Department of Licenses and Inspections have been citing restaurants like crazy for trivial items, maybe trying to make up for lost tax revenue. Anything being done to get them to cool their heels a bit? And if you can give us some examples, we can certainly share that and have a conversation there. Like I said, Justine's on the call from Commerce. We can certainly do some due diligence on that. I mean, quite frankly, the rules are in place for a reason and people need to follow the rules. But if there is above and beyond things or nitpicking things, we can certainly have a conversation. But we also need to be cognizant that the rules are in place so you all can operate safely. And it's important that everybody follows them. And yes, we will keep on fighting for events. Okay, let's see. If business self-certifies and upon inspection is found to be non-compliant with 50%, is there an opportunity for mitigation or is the penalty implemented immediately? We are not sure quite yet, Allison. I think a lot of that, like the governor's office said, if they're found to be non-compliant, they said they're going to have to go back to 25%. I'm not sure if there's a warning in place. For example, I saw that there's an article about a bar in Allegheny County that had too many people to count. In that scenario, I wouldn't think that there could be an opportunity for mitigation, but we have not heard, like we said, we don't have the order yet, and without an order, LCE and the enforcers can't enforce, so it's hard for them to know if the enforcement is going to be more strict or otherwise. And Anne, it's nice to have you with us. I hope I answered the questions. It's a closed kitchen, but there are no barriers between the line cooks themselves. So we only care about protecting guests, not the staff. That seems on par. I mean, technically, I mean, restaurants should be taking care of their employees no matter what. So if a restaurant wants to provide face shields and masks, this is a baseline. Everybody should try and go above and beyond if they're able. So, but this is honestly for indoor seating where guests are coming in, the focus is to protect the guests, and the face mask and face shield requirement wasn't in place when you were doing outside seating for your cooks. So I'm not quite sure if I understand the change or the concern there. But of course, provide more protection and masks and shields for all of your workers if you're able to. This is just a baseline the city is requiring. Security at front door inside needs both mask and shield. If they're interacting with the customer, yes. Anybody interacting with the customer needs both. And Kamara, to that end, what the health department told us on the webinar last week was they are checking staff that are interacting with guests. That's where the double requirement is in place. And that's what they told us. Again, I included that in the FAQ, and we're hoping that the health department will review that and get it back to us sooner than later so we can say that with authority. But it was discussed on the webinar last week. And I think we're nearing the end unless there's any. Yes, masks and face shields are Philadelphia only. Allegheny County does not require both. You need one or the other for your workers. Everybody should have a mask. If they cannot wear a mask to do their job, you should look into a face shield because that does provide a little bit more breathability for your employees. One or the other in 66 counties. In Philadelphia, for employees that are directly interacting with guests inside, they need both. Just Philadelphia has that requirement right now. I feel like I'm preemptively cringing if there's another question because my brain's starting to like crinkle inside my head.
I think we're at the thank you part.
Okay.
And as always, we have a submit questions area on our website where you can submit questions or, contact us directly and we'll work through the questions as they come in. Thank you, Melissa and John, and for everybody for joining us today. This has been recorded, will be sent out. And as always, stay safe, and we're here for you guys.
Thanks, Melissa, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks, everyone.